archaeology student at the University of the Highlands and Islands. So today I will be looking at a different object from what Fraser Hunter mentioned. I'm going to be looking at bronze and in the North Atlantic, Scotland. So I've just passed around, should be coming to you, is a replica of some bronze pins from the main site I will be talking about today, which is the cairns. So have a look at it, have a fiddle around with it. Please don't break it because it's a master student's project, so lecturer won't be too happy about that. So before I start, I want to ask a little favor of you. Can I please see a show of hands for people who are wearing maybe any sort of personal ornamentation today? So like watch, necklaces, any of this sort. Wow, okay, that's a pretty good number. I like that. Now, can you please keep it up if this item was gifted to you? Yeah? Okay, lovely. Thank you very much. So, yep. So the aim of my dissertation is to assess the development and significance of identity through the material evidence, and to also review the importance of personal identity as the main factor that led to the end of the Middle Iron Age. So this will be done by reviewing the development of non-ferrous metalwork in the Iron Age Scotland, and analyzing some non-ferrous metalwork artifacts to see the styles and patterns that may arise. Now, I will also briefly discuss other developments such as ferrous metalwork and structural changes, but for the sake of time, I will only focus on the non-ferrous metalwork today. So, oh, nope. Okay, so in 2003, Sharple's paper From Monuments to Artifacts, Changes in Later Iron Age Scotland actually addressed this topic. He presented his idea on the middle to later Iron Age transition. One of the main issues with this topic is that he focused on the before and after, not the transition itself, which is what I intend to focus on. So in terms of time frame, I have selected the 1st to the 4th, 5th centuries AD. The former, because this is when the initial wave of Roman goods arrived in the region, and the latter, because it is the generally agreed upon end date for the Middle Iron Age. In terms of area, I've selected the North Atlantic Scotland, because this is where Sharples focuses his paper on, and it's also what the best sort of evidence that is available to me. Now, I will analyze non-ferrous metalwork evidence from 6 different sites, which includes the cairns and the mine how. And I will also look at some anthropological concepts, such as gift-giving and identity. And as you can see from the map, these are the sites that I'm going to be looking at. I hope you can all see them from the back. So, I thought I'd give you a little bit of background on my main site for the people in the audience that may not be too familiar with it. So, the cairns is an Iron Age Brock site with a complex village system that was in use until the medieval period. But the area itself has seen human activity since the early Neolithic. It is a materially rich site that shows evidence for all kinds of activities, one of them being metalworking. So recent radiocarbon dates have shown that the Brock was abandoned around the mid-2nd century AD, while the non-ferrous metalwork activity started around the mid-3rd century AD. So in terms of the finds that come out from the excavation sites, there is over 70 mold fragments that have been recovered so far. Out of these fragments, 3 pins, 1 penannual brooch, and 3 simple rings have been identified so far. Now, interestingly enough, all 3 pins have been identified as a type known as small beaded projecting ring-headed pins. Now, one question that I posed myself was this some kind of fashion at the time, or was this a show of allegiance? Now, we can't know for sure, of course, but nonetheless, it is important to understand that this was a conscious decision by the maker themselves. So the second site I wanted to talk about today was Old Ness, which is very similar in terms of time frame to the cairns, but is situated in Shetland. Now, 95% of all copper alloy finds stem from the one structure, which has been dated to around the first half of the first millennium AD. Now, out of that, 24% of them have traces of zinc, which is a Roman material. In terms of molds, 115 fragments have been recovered during the excavations, including a hoard of 64 fragments, which has been dated from the 3rd to the 6th century AD. Now, 51% of that hoard consists of pins and brooches fragments, which seems to highlight the importance of these personal ornamentations. Now, it should also be mentioned that the evidence from both sides suggests that the non-ferrous metalwork was an episodic activity rather than a continuous one. So, how does non-ferrous metalwork fit in all this? Well, the Iron Age economy is best described as a socially embedded economy, which runs on social interactions and is maintained through the practice of gift giving. Now, French anthropologist Mauss views gift giving as a cornerstone of social interactions, where both parties are expected to reciprocate to an equal standard, otherwise a debt is created. Now, the debt doesn't have to be necessarily repaid by an object. A debt can actually be repaid through labor, service, or in some cases, even words. So again, I ask, how does non-ferrous metalwork fit in all this? Well, non-ferrous metalwork objects can be seen as the perfect gift due to its high physical and symbolic value. As Heal himself mentioned in his thesis, any object that is acquired outside of the confines of everyday society has a very high symbolic value. And that in itself makes it very hard to reciprocate, which is arguably what the maker wanted to do all along. So, in terms of theories and suggestions that I have so far, I believe that Roman goods acted as a catalyst in the region. As Hunter's 2007's research suggested, there's a quality over quantity preference in the region. But these were ornamental and easily displayed objects, such as drinking vessels and brooches. Now, the development of non-ferrous metalwork highlights the importance of ornamentation and the individual in the Middle Iron Age metalworking society. Individual identity became more accentuated as people could display their status in a much subtler fashion. And over time, this interaction within the respective communities could have led to the consolidation of individualism, and most importantly, identity is formed through interaction. So, for my final slide, I have put down some ideas and developments that I still need to research. As you can tell, it's still a fair amount, but the results I've gathered so far have been positive, so much so that I feel confident enough to present them to you today. So thank you very much for listening to my presentation. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask, but I'll try to answer them to the best of my abilities. Thank you.